When I was a little kid at school, I used to like to do models. I used to make cars, planes, boats, and as much as I actually like making the models, I also used to like to look around the hobby shops that in those days were all over the place. Sadly, they seem to have gone now, but what a great place to be when you was a little child looking around all the model cars, all the aeroplanes, all the things that you could never really afford. It was just great to actually go in and have a good look round. Now, on the last day of term, we were allowed to bring in toys to school, and one day a friend of mine brought in this radio-controlled car, and I was blown away. It was an amazing thing. It turned out to be a Tamiya Hornet, which was the first radio-controlled car I'd ever seen. We all formed a queue, and eventually, just as the battery was dying out, I got about 30 seconds actual use out of this thing, and I was really hooked. But of course the problem was the price. These were really quite expensive, so there was no way as a child I was ever going to actually own something like this. However, fast forward to my early 20s, and I was really into Porsches. I used to follow them on TV, and one day I really hoped to own one. And one Porsche that I especially liked was the 959, which actually won the Paris-Dakar Rally. I thought, and I still do, that it was just an iconic car with its twin turbochargers. It was just in my eyes, it was just beautiful, and especially in this rally version. So jump forward to 1989, and I'm 21 years old, and my then girlfriend asked me what I would like for Christmas. Now I think that she thought I was going to have some aftershave or some clothes, but no, I whipped her down to my local BT's in Southgate and straight away started looking at the model remote control cars. You see, I was just a big kid, and the one that I chose was the Porsche 959. I say Porsche, some say Porsche, but we'll call it Porsche. The Porsche 959. And good as gold, she actually bought me this kit for Christmas. What a joy that kit was to build. It was fantastic. It was well worth those years' wait. With all metal parts and bearings and wishbones and suspension that worked. It was just fantastic. And when I finished it, it looks quite similar to these pictures that I found here. I mean, I did do a really good job on the bodywork and really took my time. I think I built it over about 2 days. I played with it almost to destruction. And then, like other things, you move on, and it got put up in a loft somewhere, and it got forgotten about. But not entirely forgotten, so I thought 25 years later, it was time to dig it out and see if it would run just one more time. And here it is, in the original holdall that you got from BT's when you bought one of their products. I'm sorry about the flickering in the background, that seems to be coming from the LED lights in the kitchen. I wasn't actually aware of that when I took the film, so I do apologise for that. So here we go. Found the zip was a little bit stiff to undo after sort of so many years in the loft, and being one-handed it was a bit tight, but I did manage to get it open in the end. And there you go, and there it is. It's still very battle scarred, very battle worn, but it's still there. And there's the controller. That looks remarkably well for 25 years. That seems to have survived pretty well. Band 5, not quite sure what frequency that was. I think it was 27 AMs, I believe. So I can't quite remember what condition this was put away in. I think it was running. I think there was a few problems here or there. I seem to recall that the original motor burnt out because it actually sucked in some gravel into the rotor and it jammed, and I seem to remember smoke and I think I replaced the motor with a cheaper one. I think the original Techni Gold motor was actually quite expensive to replace. But as you can see, I mean, it certainly had a few bashes here and there, lost a few of the actual features, and looks really, really dusty here. But I do hope it still runs. And back here, you know, all of this lightweight bodywork certainly has taken quite a hammering over the years, but it did get some use, and it was great. I mean, you know, I used to sort of really whiz this around the garden, and up and down the driveway at my parents' house. It was a fantastic thing. Even at 21, it was great. So other stuff we have in the box here. We have this little box here. This contained most of the parts that I managed to sort of save with the car. Some sort of servo arms here, a few spare gear cogs, which I've never really had to use, a couple of spare bearings. What else we got? Oh, this was the motor. This was the motor that burnt out, and I did try and strip it down and repair it. But I found that the actual rotor had seized, and the actual windings had all come undone, and it was beyond what I could actually repair, which was quite a shame because this was a really fast motor. It used to really move. I seem to recall it at a real speed of about 30 miles an hour, and it was certainly quite difficult to control when it was actually sort of flat out, and it was quite hard to find somewhere large enough where you could really motor it. Well, this was the damper oil that went into the shock absorbers, and got various other things in here. That's the original paint that I used, and just sort of general other things that I just kept. So what else we got in here? Well, these were the front lights. These were pretty cool. The actual front lights actually lit up when the car was actually driving along. But I did find they used to wear the battery down quite quickly, and I think after 1 or 2 collisions they actually broke. But I could have glued them back together, I guess, but I remember leaving them off in the end. What else? We've got another very old 1980s NiCad battery recharger, which I think will go straight in the bin, and some very old sort of batteries here, Power Plus. I think a few of those are from Woolworths, so it gives you an idea how old they are. Now, a very manky old screwdriver that's going to go straight into the bin as well. Or some more damper oil here, soft setting. I must have bought that. There must be extra stuff. I can't remember now. Some sort of little Christmas card thing in there, and well, that's the recharge. That's actually with the recharger that goes with the battery. I don't know if the battery would be any good anymore. I've kept some literature here in the back. This was the actual original sort of like owner's manual and build guide. It's just a manual for the radio control set. This is quite interesting. This was actually what you got with the kit, and you sat down and just constructed it step by step, really. And it's sort of handy to actually keep if it ever broke down. It's just the differential there, and the suspension, the drive shaft. I mean, it was a lovely thing to build. I thoroughly enjoyed building it. Really did enjoy those few days sitting there intently building it. And yeah, what a great time to do that. On the back there you've just got all the parts and all numbered, so you can order all the spare parts. Right, there we go. So also in the back here, this is really interesting. I completely forgot I had this. This is actually a Tamiya, or Tamer if you like, 1989 catalogue, which I would have got at the same time as I actually bought the kit from BT's. What's interesting as well is that when you look at this is well before the internet. You had to actually buy the catalogues as well. They didn't give them away. And £2.25 back in 1989. That was actually quite a lot of money. That's probably equivalent to about 8 or 9 quid today. When you look in here, it's wonderful. You've got all these really great colour pictures and exploded diagrams. They really did go to town on their sort of catalogues. Our price guide here from the summer 1989. Of course, no internet, so everything you had to be done was mail order through the post. What a great piece of nostalgia this catalogue is. I mean, I really enjoyed just flicking through this at these fantastic models. I mean, whether you could actually build them as good as this, but I mean, what some great cars they did in sort of the 80s, 90s, from kind of just ordinary vehicles right up to rally cars, to Formula 1 cars, little model RC cars here. And it's just fantastic, I mean, like Tamiya kits were really good, and also bikes as well, even the figurines, and oh man, it's just, it's really fantastic looking through this catalogue. It brings it all back, all these sort of kits that I really wanted when I was like about 15, 16. And as we move on into the sort of second part here, we've got all of the radio control parts, and look at all the spare parts, chassis, wheels, gears, and it's all there really, all the bodies that you can buy. And there we go, if we look up there, sorry about the focus, there's the Porsche 959, and there's the actual Monster Beetle, which I do actually have an actual one of those, which I'm going to show you at some point in the future. So these are the RC radio controlled cars of the time, very much like the Hornet, like my sort of like mate had. So a lot of these were 4-wheel drive, monster trucks as well. Monster trucks were really big, and there's the Monster Beetle again. So we do actually have one of those, which I will actually do a little video on that at some point. And oh yeah, up the top, there you go. This is the Porsche, or the Porsche 959 Paris-Dakar. And that's the one I actually ended up buying. I think it was about £200 at the time. So yeah, again, these things weren't actually cheap. Well, these are some sort of more track radio control cars. And then onto ships. I forgot that Tamiya made all this stuff. This aircraft carriers. Fantastic. I don't know how big these were. I imagine these are really quite big. Battleships as well, and loads and loads of ships, and god, there are tanks coming up here and everything else, and military vehicles. I mean, fantastic really. You could have just spent almost your whole life making these models, figurines, dioramas. What a fantastic catalogue. I don't know if they make these in catalogues anymore, it's probably all online now. What a piece of nostalgia. 1989 Tamiya catalogue. Fantastic. So we have a little closer look at the model itself. So it is rather battle scarred. What a great model this was. It really was quite detailed. So that's the top body removed. It actually doesn't look too bad. I thought it might actually be worse than this. All the suspension seems smooth. The actual shock absorbers and springs seem to actually go up and down. Obviously the oil would have dried out years ago. The speed controller looks a little bit kind of dried out. I'm going to have to sort of probably put some contact spray on that. But I think generally everything sort of still seems to work 25 years on. If I wanted to really do it properly, I think I could probably re-oil these shock absorbers. But I won't bother with that this afternoon. I just want to sort of get it out and sort of see if it runs really. Got this 4-cell AA battery holder, which I can't quite remember what that was for. And the servo there that does the steering, that seems to be okay. Yeah, I mean generally it actually looks in better condition than I thought. But this is the original battery now. This is 25 years old. And I don't think you're supposed to really recharge these after so many years. Whether it'll hold any charge, I don't know. I doubt it. I imagine that's well corroded inside. Probably a NiCad cell. I'm going to give it a go. I'm going to actually plug it into the charger, but I'm not going to do it indoors in case it splits or leaks or whatever. So I'll probably do that outside. I think I'll take these elastic bands off as well. I'm not quite sure what they're on there for. Can't quite remember. But anyway, I think we'll give that battery a bit of a go. Hopefully we can get some juice out of it just to see if it'll actually run once this speed control has been all lubricated and everything else. So right, I'm going to do this outside. I've noticed that the connections are pretty badly corroded as well, so I'll have to clean those. So hopefully that might actually get a little bit of power. But I'm certainly not going to risk it indoors in case it does split. If it splits, leaks, or even explodes really. I think you're supposed to sort of throw these away. So there we go. It's all done now safely outside. So I'll leave that for about an hour and then we'll just sort of hopefully see if we get anything out of that at all. So while the battery hopefully charges or probably melts or explodes outside, I think I just need to clean up this speed controller because it's a little bit stiff, a little bit jerky. I think it's a 3-speed affair, but it obviously hasn't been used for 25 years at thereabouts. So I'm just going to give that a little bit of contact spray. There we go. That's it's actually loosened up quite nicely. So I'm hoping that's going to work. I imagine it'll be a little bit jerky, won't be as linear as it used to be, but hopefully it'll work. The radio control transmitter seems pretty good. There's a tiny little bit of corrosion in the bottom there, but luckily I remembered to remove the batteries before I put it into storage. So I think that's going to work okay. Just need to find 10 AA batteries now. That's going to be quite a challenge. So we've got this little thing here that holds 4 AA cells, and I'm not quite sure. It seems to go into the actual servo controller, and I've got another connection here which is coming off of the main power board. So it must have been an auxiliary power for the servos. So maybe when the main battery wears down, this allows you to carry on controlling the car, so it doesn't go out of control. I think that might have been what it was. It's certainly, I'm not actually going to use that because there's no way am I going to be able to find 14 batteries this afternoon. So I'm going to disconnect that and just connect it up to the main board just to see if we can get this thing running. Yep, so there we go. So a little bit closer look at the bodywork here. Lots of battle scars, lots of damage. Certainly had some good use out of it, but I do love the detailing. Look, I was looking in there, you can actually got the sort of map notes actually illustrated as well. And they're very, very light, just made out of very thin plastic. And you painted it from the inside and then kind of coated it in a silver, I did, just to sort of protect it. And, well, I suppose it survived. I'll give it that. I mean, it hasn't, but it's, certainly seen a few battle scars. It's certainly been well used. Okay, so I've charged the battery up now, and it's time to give it a little test. Well, I've got power in the actual handset now, but unfortunately, with the battery connected, it's dead as a dodo, nothing at all. So I suspect that battery has died. I have got a spare that was on the Monster Beetle, so I'm going to connect that up and give that a go. And I'm pleased to say, look, it actually works. There we go. Steering works, nice and smooth. So I just need to put it onto the floor, see if we actually get some drive through the motor. And that's fantastic. So I'm pleased to say that works. And here we have it on the kitchen floor. And forwards, backwards, steering, it all worked absolutely fine. That's fantastic. So I'm going to take it outside now and give it a little whiz round with the body on before the battery dies, because I don't think the battery's got a lot of life actually in it. You can't expect that. And here we go. It's back on the road. It's fantastic to see it working again. It really is. I mean, it was quicker than this with the original motor, and the battery is pretty half dead. It's a little bit jerky on the speed control, but it works. Fantastic. 25 years old. I suppose I could buy a new battery for it and sort of, fill those dampers with oil, and I could sort of restore it. I think you can still pick up some actual body parts for it as well. But fantastic. That's what I wanted to see. Brilliant. So there you go. If you enjoyed this video, or if it's something to interest you, please give it a thumbs up. I have got a monster beetle which I'm going to do a video on sort of quite shortly, so come back and look out for that. But until that, I'd just like to say thanks for watching.